Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode number 52 of Dream Career Talk Show. Dream Career Talk Show is about building your dream career, which is much beyond getting a job. Here on this show, we are going to have industry experts coming from various domains who will be sharing their knowledge, their experience, their challenges, their failures, and their success so that it can help others in their career journey. This show is to help corporate professionals expand their context, get clarity, direction, hope, inspiration, and of course, the right steps to build their dream careers and dream life. Creative problem solving, one of the top skills which is high in demand. A lot of people talk about creative problem solving, design thinking, humanizing technology, and different words and different terminologies. But what is creative problem solving? Can everyone be a good problem solver? Rather, a creative problem solver. How to develop creative problem solving skills? Is there a process that we can follow? To understand more about it, we are going to have our guest, Roopali Pankaj, who is going to be there today discussing about design thinking, discussing about creative problem solving. Roopali comes with 15 plus years of experience in the design industry. She is a design educator, a product designer, interior designer, a calligrapher, and an artist. She is a creativity mentor, nurturing creative thinking in young minds. Rupali, welcome to Dream Career Talk Show. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and share stage with you here and communicating with so many enthusiastic people with sharing my thoughts on a topic that is so close to my heart. I truly believe that each one of us are creative, is creative, and it's just about unleashing that potential. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for coming here because I know when we spoke backstage, how clearly and easily you were able to articulate things. And I was thinking, I can also become a creative problem solver, right? I
You
also have that creativity.
You already are, Fatah. You already are.
Yeah, but I think now our audience will also, some of them
Yes,
who have that myth and understanding about how you can use creative problem solving skills and how that can help them in their careers and also in their lives. So,
right.
before we get into deep diving into the creative problem solving, let's
Mhm.
understand about you and your career. How did you get started with your career?
Yeah, yeah. So I did my bachelor's degree in architecture from Pune University. So I was inclined towards design and creative field right from the childhood. And then I pursued my master's in product design from IIT Bombay back in 2003. And after that, I have been working as a design professional, full-time design professional with different MNCs and with different consultancies also. And since last 10 years I have also been into design education, so I have been teaching at different courses in bachelor's and also master's courses in product design and interior and styling. So and apart from that, I'm very keen, I have very keen interest in calligraphy. So I have been doing a lot of work in calligraphy, a lot of artworks, and some of my works have already been displayed on international at international exhibitions. So in gist of it, I would like to say that I'm an explorer. I just love to explore different things.
Truly, and I think I've seen your work. It's amazing, and you already been recognized on some international forums. Plus, the way you are passionate about it, right? That is what I love the most. You're passionate, and the way you keep doing things around this,
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
right? So great. Now, you started with creative problem solving or design thinking. Design has been
Right.
your field all the time. So, what is your definition of dream career?
Dream career, I feel it has to be something like where first thing is you have to like it, like you have to, it shouldn't be a career or work for you. It has to be just part of you. That is very first thing, and then by doing so you should be impacting the different lives, like many lives, with a positive change. So whatever you are doing with that, there has to be some positive change around you in the world. You need to, create that positivity around you in whichever way. Like, it could be any profession. So if you do that passionately and you bring that positive change in people, in the world around you, automatically the money is byproduct. It comes along with it. So that is how I have always perceived my dream career, and that's how it, gave me that boost to try so many different things. Otherwise I would have been just doing, even though being in a design or creative profession, just doing the same thing again and again, 9 to 5, it makes it monotonous. So I always tried to, try my hands at different things.
Right. So thank you for that. And what is a creative problem solving as per you? How do you define that?
See, to me, whatever situations we are, we generally try to make it better in whichever context. It could be our personal context, or social context, or professional context. So, to me, everything that we are working towards is always a kind of problem solving that we are doing. And when we try and come up with a different solution, not the first one, the obvious one that comes to our mind, but trying to go deeper and find out a different way of dealing, or coming with a better solution which is more effective than the most obvious one, is the creative way. And that's how I perceive creative problem solving. And to me, in any kind of, like, right from scientists, the way they are doing, what they are doing is they're trying to come up with, they're curious to know few things, and that curiosity leads them to try out various experiments to go to the deep root of whatever they are trying to find out. And that's also creativity. Otherwise we generally tend to think that relate creativity mostly with art and design related professions, but it's about creative thinking, I feel. And so that's how creative problem solving can be applied to any situation in life, be it professional, social, or personal. That's how I perceive creative problem solving for that.
Right. And you said creative problem solving mostly is perceived around art and all. Now, somebody like me, and there are many out there who are not good at art, right? We are not good at designing and all of that. So, how do you actually look at these people? Can they also like solve problems creatively?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, Fatah, I personally believe that if each one of us are creative. What is creativity? Is our ability to come up with different solutions, right? Or come up with different ideas, for that matter. And if, as a child, any one of us, if we remember ourselves as a child, we had no scarcity of ideas at any point of a time, especially when we were at play, or when we were doing something that we really love to do. Maybe if we don't like academics that much, then in that we might not come up with that good ideas. But otherwise, I'm sure whatever we used to like, we were never short of any ideas. And then uh, it's a big myth that is lying around, that creativity is only restricted to coming up with good art, or good drawing, or being able to sing nicely, and being able to dance nicely. Basically, something that relates with art, music, or creative writing. Only that much is the block that we all have about being creative. And if we see that we are not doing good in any one of these fields, then we label ourselves as, I am not creative, that is not my domain. But with that, what we are doing is we are suppressing that thing. First we need to believe that, yes, I am creative, and creativity is not only about art, it's about thinking, how you can think creatively and come up with those different solutions. So having different perspectives will definitely enable you to think differently. And that's how I believe that one should not, the first step towards being creative is to not label yourself as I'm not creative, or believe in yourself that yes, you are creative, you are born as a creative person. It's just that with the stereotype, I would say conditioning, or the kind of education system that we have, and also the brain's function naturally is that, whatever we look at, we that information gets stored in our brains in that particular way. So whenever then next we come across the similar situation, we perceive it in the very same way. That's the natural function of our brain. Unless we take efforts to look at that same situation in a different point of view, that's why getting exposed to different kind of environments, interacting with different people, definitely helps in unleashing our creative potential. So again, to summarize, yes, each one of us are creative, and first step is to believe that we are creative and try and apply it in whatever we are doing.
Right. And you have also been a design educator, like you have been into the education, educating people on this.
Right,
Now,
right.
since I come from the IT background, design
Hmm.
thinking is something that we keep hearing, right,
Right,
out there. So,
right,
is design
right.
thinking also like creative problem solving is a part of design thinking, or how is it like?
Yes, 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 yes. I agree with you that it's a buzzword, and especially in the corporates these days, design thinking is a buzzword, and everyone wants to know what design thinking is. Some think that it's just a jargon, and there's not much in it, or some even think that it's something very complex or technical thing. But let me clarify that why it is called design thinking. As the name suggests, it's about thinking. So the way we can think, as I'm saying, that it's all about creativity, is all about being able to think creatively. So that's why thinking. And why design is because it's the thinking process that designers generally use to arrive to any solution for whatever project that they are working. So it could be any kind of design, it could be architecture, or it could be fashion design, or it could be product design. The kind of process that each of these designers they follow to come to that final solution is the same process. And then people like the experts, when they research, they found out that this same process can also be used in different contexts. Like it could be a social context, or it could be a business context, or a personal life context. In any kind of a context, if you want to come up with creative solution, that similar methodology can be used. And you can, if you use that, then definitely the kind of outcome that you will see will be different from the obvious outcome that generally we encounter with any kind of thing. So that's what, in nutshell, design thinking is, and why it is called as design thinking.
Great.
So
Thank you for clarifying that. And you were talking about the process, right? Most of the
mhm,
designers
mhm.
and all that use.
Right,
So,
right.
like, what is this process? Can you like maybe help us understand the process that is being used?
Yes, yes, yes. So, as I mentioned, that it's a process which is used in any kind of creative endeavor. So let's for example, if I'm coming up with any kind of creative artwork, then what I do is, first I just try and think about what is it that I want to express. Is there any theme or anything like that, and then I have a series of paintings which I did with Om, like the symbol Om. How it started was, it is uh, because I am into three-dimensional design, product design, architecture. I always wanted to explore three-dimensionality in calligraphy, so in words. So I wanted to explore if how a word, if in three dimension it looks, how would it look. So I tried to think about. So I wanted to start with something very simple and which can resonate with a lot of people. So I came up with a simple symbol Om, and how in three dimension it will look. So what I did was I did a research about how we perceive Om. So this is what I understand the situation. That is the first step that design thinking has. The first step is to understand that situation. So if it is any other creative problem solving, if we take like any situation, like for example, what we can take it as, just I am dealing with how to create a wonderful environment for children. Then in that case, if I am working with children, wonderful environment, say in a preschool or something, so I need to relate with children. I need to understand that what is it, how much time they're going to spend there, and what kind of activities are they going to do there. So I need to relate with my audience there and understand the situation better. If I don't do that, then I will not be able to understand what kind of colors will resonate with those children, or what will it make more lively for them to spend that much time away from their known parents, or the people that they have been always spending time with. So that's the first step. You need to understand the user or the situation. Then next thing is to define that problem. So when I am defining, this step is generally perceived as why we need to define it, because we already know what we are working on. Then how does defining it again matters? So defining is basically whatever research that you are doing. When understanding the situation, you just need to identify or analyze that situation, whatever, like it could be user interacting with the user, so interviews that you are interacting with users, or understanding the environment, understanding what kind of products are being used in that environment, then what kind of dimensions or postures are effective for the user to perform whatever task that they are doing. So in case of a preschool, what kind of heights the furniture should have, all this comes in the research. So when you are analyzing this research, then from that you can define that what will work best for the user, and if what is it that the solution should have. So it's like currently whatever is the situation, how you can make it to a desired situation. So what is it, the desired situation that people you in that situation will like it. So that's what you define as the next step. So first is to understand the situation, second is to define the problem, or the final uh, it's like dreaming about your ideal situation, how you want it. And then the third stage is the conceptualization, or coming up with a lot of different ideas, and then narrowing down. So initially, when you are thinking about different ideas, it could be any idea, any crazy idea. That's how you come up with different solutions. So initially, it could be almost 20, 30, 50 different ideas, and from then comparing those to the with the design specifications or definition that we have decided in the problem area, then you need to finalize two or three best ideas from that, best concepts from that. Next step is to make the prototype of those two ideas. And I feel that even at this stage, some people feel that it's unnecessary wasting time in trying to see, because already we know the idea, now let's just quickly finish it and implement it. Why we need to do that prototype and waste resources and time? But it is exactly the opposite. Whatever you have in mind, or you do it digitally on screen, whatever product or solution that you're coming up with, unless you make it in physical, it becomes very difficult for you to get the clarity, so that it can be manufactured to the as a real product, or as a real solution. There are so many different situations that could come that you don't visualize it on paper or just in mind, but when you try and make the physical product with you, then you get more clarity about how it has to be done. There are many things you come to know that you thought that probably this material would work best, but when you are actually trying it, you come to know that, oh, it's not working, let me just try and change that and think about different an alternative for the same. So that's why prototype making, the next stage, is so important, because it gives you more clarity about it. And then the best part is you can test and validate it with the end users. So if you just show them something, suppose I am working on that furniture, as I said, and if I just show them, on the screen, that, see, this is how the color is going to look, or if I show them some sketch, see, this is how it is going to look, then they'll see, yeah, yes, it's looking nice, but they won't be able to experience it. But if I make a, not the finished one, but a small prototype, say just with cardboard, and I let the children use that, or I let the other people, the people who are going to clean it or maintain it, if I let them use it, then they'll be able to find out that, oh, this is very nice, or these are the things where I am facing problem in this. So what happens is, with that quick model, you get to know that what are the probable problems that people may find with the solution that you are trying to give to them. So this reduces your time. Otherwise, all these problems you would only get to know once everything is made. So just imagine the kind of infrastructure that you're using, cost that you're using in that. And then when people are using it for a month or so, then you will able to know. And that too, if only if you are taking that feedback. Otherwise, they'll be just keep cursing you that, oh, this design is not working, it's poking, or it's whatever is are the problems. So all these things can get eliminated just with following these two steps, that making the prototype and testing it and validating with the users. How it helps is, it you whatever problems that will be faced by users in future, you get to know that, and you get to improve on those in your final solution beforehand. And that's how you make sure that your final solution or design that you are opting or offering to people is the optimum one or the most effective one. So that's the whole process.
Yeah,
so
I
so
think that
so
that's yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
just to summarize, I'll just define the step by step. First is to understand the situation. Second, define that problem. Third, to ideate and conceptualize it. Next is prototype and testing and validation, and then implementation of it.
Wow, great. Now we have one question. If you are okay, we'll take up this question,
Yeah,
right?
please.
It's come from Selva May. He's asking, how can we nurture creative problem solving for startups? So can
Yeah.
we take up maybe a startup or some example of maybe a company or something, and then
Hmm, hmm.
try to talk about
Right.
how they can use problem solving, creative problem solving?
Yes, yes, yes. Very, very good question, Selvame. Thank you for that question. Yes, we can use creative problem solving for startups. And as I have mentioned, that, if we use all these steps, whatever solution that we are trying to offer in the through that startup, if we try and test it, whatever ideas, first thing is, if we come up with so many different ideas and then finalize one from it and then test and validate, definitely we'll be able to understand what problems it will face. And as Fatah, you said that if we can talk about it through one example, so I would like to take example of Oyo rooms. So how Ritesh Agarwal, when he came up with his startup, he was barely 19 or 20, he hadn't even started his graduation. So at that time, just after passing his 12th grade, he was traveling. He used to, like, he wanted to become an entrepreneur. That is what he had decided, and he liked to explore. So he was traveling, and when he was traveling, he was not very rich. So obviously, he had to opt for budget accommodations, and there he experienced the problems that people were facing in those kind of budget accommodations. So the kind of experience that we experience in the branded hotels, something like that he wanted to have. So maybe it need not be the luxurious kind of a thing, but at least having clean washrooms and clean bedding and a good ambience, or a hustle free check in and check out process, is what he thought that, these are the things. So what he did with this was, through his own experience, he came up with the problems, and then he wanted to make the situation better for others. That's how he came up with that startup idea. And so he was passionate about solving that idea and offering that kind of branded experience, even at cost effective budget, or at a budget accommodation. And then when I'm saying that he understood the situation, he also knew. So what could have been the obvious solution to come up with this particular problem was to come up with a branded hotel, a chain of a branded hotels like we have in 4-star or 5-star hotels. But then for that you will need a lot of money, and that was a constraint. So he knew what he had. So he had actually analyzed his own strengths and weaknesses. He knew what he had. He had a very technically sound mind, so he could use technology in best way. And but he don't have money, so he thought more about it. Now, having analyzing all this situation, which was the first step, that understanding the situation, or and then defining is that I don't have the budget, so I need to come up with something, some other idea. So he came up with different ideas, and then he thought that he should approach one of the existing hotels in his nearby city, wherever city he was in. And then he came up with a collaboration. He gave such an offer to that owner of that hotel, that he said that let us just try this. I have an idea. Let's implement it, and then if it works, whatever profit we'll share it. If there are losses, then let me bear it. So the hotel owner, he thought that he's some rich person's lad, and he's just trying to try something. So he had nothing to lose, so he said okay. And then Ritesh, he took all his efforts in changing the ambience. So he invested whatever amount he had, through whatever earnings he had, he invested in it. So from the local market, he bought a well, because he had the clarity that what kind of ambience he is looking for. With that clarity, he could, and whatever he was doing was actually so he was prototyping and trying to test and validate with this process. So he changed that ambience, and even in the kind of service part of it, he tried to be part of each of the activities. So he tried to manage it, and just for one single hotel he could spare his time, and he could try that out. And with whatever he brought the change, the hotel, it saw almost 75% shoot up in the occupancy rate. And with that, obviously the owner was very satisfied, and with that kind of testimony, he could try the same thing in 4 different hotels within a year's time. So that's how he tested it at a small scale. And then when that was done, his dream was big. He wanted to impact more lives, and he wanted to try that similar thing nationwide. So again, he knew that how he can do that. He'll need a good team to to implement all that across the cities, across different cities. And so, first 1 year or 6 months, he just tried to develop that kind of a team, wherein then he could, execute or implement that kind of setup in different cities across India. And now, so that's how that's similar. So there also, to implement that, first he did the research, he built the team, and then so he came up with different concepts, and he must have validated it, and then he implemented it at that level. So that is how I feel that it's a very good example of, for any startup, where we can see that how creative problem solving, step by step process, if we follow, what kind of results one can get through that process.
Right, absolutely. And this is wow, this is something really good when you put up in the example that you gave, right?
Yeah.
Starting from like how understanding the problem as a startup,
Right.
right? The
Right.
problem which you want to solve, right?
Right.
And then defining the problem, like
Hmm.
now this person defined the problem, Ritesh, right? He defined the
Right.
problem
Right.
like you said about sanity in terms of like cleanliness with the
Goodness
bathrooms.
in
Then
washrooms,
you
right.
said the
Bedding, and
bedding, and
right,
also the ambience plus the customer
right,
service part. Right, so
true,
defining that problem and then actually looking at the different steps after that, like prototyping, testing and validation,
right,
and then
right.
again putting them into implementation. So basically, so is this like a lateral process, like one by one step you do and then it ends
Uh,
at the final stage when you implement?
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting question, Fatah. So the main crux of this whole process is it's said to be an iterative process. So what does the word iterative means? That you go back and forth. So as you said that initially when we start, definitely we try and go sequentially. That once we finish understanding the situation, then we define it, and then we come up with different ideas. But then from this step onwards, when you come up with different ideas and you make prototype and you test it, in between at any time you may, like while you are making prototype, maybe you have imagined something, put it on paper, sketched it out, and come up with some idea, and then while making the prototype you realize that, oh, this is not working the way I supposed, or I had visualized it, so let me change it here. So to change, if it's a small change, you can do it then and then, or maybe it happens that you have to again go back to the sketchboard and do that sketch again and try and refine it further and make the prototype again. Or many times it happens that you make the prototype, and when you are testing it, at that time you realize that, oh, I thought that users, because the color of this button is red, it will be prominent and user will be able to locate it very easily. But in reality, because it's a red color, they're not trying and hitting it, because generally red is perceived as, something that you don't touch or don't use it. So that's how they're not using it. So let me try and use some different color there, or let me try and use that button at some other place. So this is how you come to know that something is not working, and then again you have to go back, maybe at whichever stage. Sometimes it also happens that you come to know that you have identified the problem itself, you have made some mistake somewhere. So you need to go back to again research step, do that research, only that part research, and then try and fix that particular solution, or that prototype. So that makes this whole process iterative. You go back and forth, but still if we compare to this, as in when we are getting to know all these flaws or drawbacks of the design only after implementation and people using that particular problem, or sorry, solution. So that's if that's a much time and cost lost compared to what you are utilizing it at this particular stage by making this process an iterative process.
Great. So this is more of an iterative process. You go back to
Yes,
certain steps, repeat that, iterate it, and then correct there, and then keep
right,
moving ahead.
right,
Okay,
right,
right. So
right.
can we try to like deep dive into each of these steps, because you
Hmm,
mentioned the
hmm, hmm,
entire process is like more or less like 6 to 7 steps. So
hmm,
if we go
hmm,
back to these steps, right, the
hmm,
number
hmm,
step number one, where you
hmm,
talk about understanding the situation or problem, right?
hmm,
How do
hmm.
you do, like what are the various things you can do at this stage?
I would again like to take Ritesh's example here, where he tried to understand the different ways. So what he did was he understood the situation from perspective of different stakeholders who will be part of the solution. So as a customers, what are the expectations of customer? He himself had experienced it, and also he interviewed some of the people. So that's how he came to know about that thing. Then about the staff, the way they had been behaving in that kind of setup. Why were they doing like that? So he tried and understand that also, because he wanted to motivate them and give and offer the kind of service that he wanted his customers to experience. So obviously it would be offered by that staff. So he tried to talk with them and understand that. Then he also talked with the hotel owners, and he tried to understood that, what kind of mentality they will have. What is it? What are their expectations? So they would be definitely concerned about the profit. How could they have? How could they generate more revenue using the same kind of investments that they are doing? So in this case, he tried to understand, like he was empathizing with each and every stakeholder, and not only the stakeholder, also the kind of environment that there will be. So basically research includes, it will depend on the problem to problem or project to project, but overall it is about understanding that particular situation holistically, from the point of view of each and every individual who will be involved in that particular situation. Yeah.
Right. So basically, this step, Rupali, can be applied in any product or services, anything like this was a service that he was trying to
True,
do, right?
true,
So
true,
now
true,
for
true.
products also, this same step, like
Yes.
understanding the situation in terms of research, in terms of
Yes.
talking to people, own
Right, right.
experiences. Right.
Yes, 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 definitely. Yes, this is the same process that we follow in product design also. Uh, if like when I had to come up with a dental X-ray machine, so what I did was I tried to interact with, like, whatever experience that I had with the dental machines. I had that experience, but apart from that, I visited a clinic and I tried how people are using it. So while using it, what are the problems that the doctor is facing? What are the problems that his assistant, who is assisting him in whatever procedure that the dentist is doing, what are the problems faced by him, or what are the, like, if you keep the sequence of tools, if the doctor is using it with right hand, then probably the sequence is correct. But if the doctor is a left-handed person, that for him it might not work. So that if you observe this, then you know that, it has to be modular. So if the doctor is using it with right hand, then the all the tools should be situated on his right hand side, but if he wants to use it with left hand, then it has to be on this side. So all this this insight will come only when you are observing these things and thinking about that particular product in from all different point of view. So this is understanding the user. Then you need to understand what kind of environment that particular task will require. So it will be, it has to be, it shouldn't have too much of noise, or it shouldn't have too much of dust. So all these things also plays, like for example, it might be used with the water. So it has to be, designed accordingly. It has to have that kind of an insulation. So that's how the environment also matters. And then what kind of other products, peripheral products, does that particular product needs to be using with. So like for example, if I'm using mouse, I'm using it with the laptop, so I need to know what kind of relationship both the products should have. So that's how holistically you need to understand about the situation and different elements that plays a role in that particular design. If you think about it holistically like this, then hardly there is any scope that you miss out on something which will offer some kind of create some kind of problems in the final solution. So just to take care of that, you need to start right from the beginning. Fatah, you are on mute.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
this way, if we understand and if we put across everything during the first step, definitely it will help in terms of problem solving. Right now, the second step you mentioned was defining the problem itself
Problem.
or
Right.
defining the
Right.
situation.
Right.
So,
Right.
how do you do that, and what are the various things that you need to put in here?
Right, right. So I feel for this, the important skill that one needs to know is to analyze. So while you are doing the research, it's mostly, compiling all the data, understanding so much information. But now all that information is not going to help you. You need to analyze it and then come up with few insights and observation. As I said, that while I am interacting with the dentist or observing the dentist, I come to know that he might be using it with any of the hands, and then I came up with the insight that it has to be modular. It could be fixed here or here according to whatever is the situation. So you need to analyze that information and then come up with the insights from that. So analysis and synthesis. Synthesis is when you are coming up with exactly what you want to draw from it, or understanding what are those small changes. If you work on that, it will make a big impact in the final solution. So like that, prioritizing the problems so that that these are the three or four things which I can solve, or which I can make them better. I am sure that final solution is going to be the optimum or the best kind of a solution.
Right.
So
So
this
in
is
in
defining
this
it.
in this example of Oyo rooms, if you look back, like
Right.
what was the defined stage? What all were defined? If you have to, like,
Yeah.
so that we
Right.
connect with the same example.
Yes, 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 yes. So when he did all different kind of research, as we said, so he defined that he needs to work first on, so to make the experience better for the for the customer end user. He worked on the ambience and services to make the staff, to make the staff perform better. He offered them a good training and offered them security, some kind of motivation, and to make sure that the hotel owners will make that profit. So he tried to define it that I want to earn that much profit, or I want to make rise by that much percentage. So for each of the stakeholder, he had some kind of priorities or some kind of goal, and that's how he defined. Also, coming back to the earlier stage, this is what he had defined once he decided that that he want to work on one particular individual hotel. But initially, even before that, when he just wanted to make that change and come up with this idea, he had defined that uh, I want to make or offer us that branded kind of an experience, which is a predictable experience and a trustworthy experience. So these are the two keywords that he came up with, uh, that predictable experience and having trust in the staff and in that environment. And for that, he knew, so he had defined that he didn't had his own investment, so he need to do that collaboration. So at that level, he had defined this, that he, what exactly he want to have and what are the resources available. From that, then he finalized that, yes, let me try at collaboration. And in the collaboration, then he defined that this is how, with the three stakeholders, these are the things that I want to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can connect now with clarity. What we always say, like, it is
Right.
very important to have that absolute clarity of what you are building, right? Or what you are
Right.
trying
Right.
to solve as a problem.
Right. So clarity about what you have and what you want, and having, using those resources, whatever available resources, then how you can get to where you want to reach.
Right, great. And now that we have covered the first two steps, like
Right.
understanding and then defining the situation, now the third
Right.
step I think you spoke about was conceptualization. So,
Right.
how does this
Ideation.
work?
Yeah, so it's, as I said, that this is one step where generally people think that this is not my cup of tea. First two are is fine, because here is that you have to come up with a lot of different ideas, and people get stuck at one solution, or at the max two or three they come up with. But there are different tools which have been subscribed for this, and if you use these tools, it becomes easy. And also, one more thing is, the more you practice doing these, the comfortable, like, you become more comfortable, and it doesn't seem that difficult initially. Yes, definitely it looks difficult, but then the great part is that you have these kind of tools and techniques which have been developed by masters, and you just have to use them and practice them. But even understanding these will not be sufficient for you to be able to implement it. You just have to practice it. Practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. So I'll explain few tools that can be used. One is Six Thinking Hats by Edward Dibuno. So what he says that it's very difficult for us to think about one particular situation or whatever it is, whatever situation, from different perspectives. So he says that at a time you can think about anything in one particular way. So he came up with a very nice metaphor of wearing a hat. So you imagine that you are wearing different color hats, and for each color he has a different set of thinking, and you think about only that aspect for that particular solution. So first is white hat. When you are putting white hat, white is something to the to black and white, like facts. So whatever facts or information that is available about that particular thing, so there you are not judging at all. It is not about what you think about it, whatever it's, so it's all about numbers and whatever facts available about that particular situation. Next next color is yellow and black. So yellow is where you relate yellow with brightness or positivity and hope. So when you are wearing yellow hat, you just have to think about what are the good things about that particular situation. So whatever you're thinking about, any situation or any product or any problem area, just think about what are the good ways or good benefits that this particular idea has. So especially this kind of thinking is very useful when you are trying to compare two three different options. So you've already reached a stage where you have finalized that I want to go ahead with these three options. Then you try and compare or think about what are the positive things about this concept 1, concept 2, and concept 3. The other hat is black hat, which is exactly opposite to yellow hat, where you are thinking about what could be the problems or what are the bad things about it, or what kind of problems this particular idea may have. So caution and problems related to that. So once you imagine that you're wearing that hat, now you know that it becomes your brain mechanism, or the work of your brain gets simplified, that you just have to focus now on only the problem areas that that particular idea will have. So that's how the tool helps you to focus on whatever one perspectives that you want to think about it. Then wearing the red hat is to think about the emotion. So there you have to show whatever emotion, or you have to capture emotion of other people if you are interviewing them when you are wearing red hat. So whatever, are they feeling happy about it or sad about it, whatever, just try and observe or note down or notice any emotions that you think about that particular situation. Then other two hats is green hat. Green hat is about coming up with different ideas now. uh, so just try to think in a different way than you think about that situation in the normal situation. So this is something difficult, but with practice you can do that. And the other hat is blue hat. So blue hat is like analysis. So you just think about the thinking, whatever thinking that you have done, just take an account of it and analyze the situation, that what is it that you have covered, what is it more that you need to cover. So I find it very useful tool, and when I explain it to the students, they are very easily able to relate with that, and that metaphor makes it even more. It adds that fun part to it, and one enjoys doing thinking. So that's one tool. Another tool is called as Scamper, if you might have heard about the word. So it's an acronym for, so S stands for substitute. So whatever product or that you are thinking about, just try to analyze that how can you substitute that product or that process or some part of it. So you can, with that, if you are thinking about that substitution, then you come up with different ideas related to that. C stands for combining. Can you combine few of the parts? Can you combine something else with that existing product? That's how you come up with different ideas. Then A stands for adapt. So adapting is just by changing few things, or because this is like this, can I make this particular part also complementary to that, or because, so things like that, like how you can change it according to changes in the situation. Then M stands for modify or magnify. So if I make it smaller, will that help? If I make it bigger, will that help? Or if I modify it in some other way, will that help? Then P is for put to other use. So this is something that, I generally use pen for writing. Can I use it for something else? So yes, definitely I can use it to push something, or I can use it to, pull something. So that there are, like this, if you try and come up with different uses for that. And again, as I said, the more you practice, the more you come over that obvious solutions, and you start thinking about the other, no, different ways of using it. The next one is E, to eliminate. So can I eliminate some of the parts or some of the processes to simplify it, to make it minimal, which is not, required at all. So you can do like this. If you have these kind of different tools, then it works to come up with different ideas. Then the last word, R, stands for reversal. So it's like trying to reverse that particular action. So for example, if we take the example of Amazon, so it is based on this particular thought, reversal way. So generally, before Amazon or before any kind of e-commerce, we had to go to the shop physically and do the shopping. But it tried about that whole experience in the reverse way. Can shop come to us, and can we do shopping like that? So that's how the reversal way worked there. So these are the different tools that you can use to come up with different ideas. Another is using analogies or metaphors. So this is something that you keep using in, especially in literature or when you are writing creatively. Similar thing can also be used in coming up with solutions. So if you find something that works very well in nature, then can I replicate that in some of my structures? So a beautiful example of this is the hexagonal honeycomb pattern. If you see, it's the most rigid pattern that you can use for modularity. So many of the products which in architecture, they use this hexagon shape to make that particular structure, that frame, strong yet lightweight. So yes.
This is like mind blowing, right? You have simplified it, and I think the tools that you have given now, I'm sure like the audience also have become very confident. At least I am very confident now that I am a creative problem solver, right? I can use
Yes,
all
yes,
these tools, especially the six hats. I was trying to wear
yes.
that and visualize it. So this is
Right.
really mind blowing. And now that we have covered the third step, the fourth
Hmm.
step I think you spoke about was prototyping. So it's like
Right,
building a prototype,
right,
right?
right.
And then
So
trying to do that. Yeah.
right, right. So as I have mentioned in the Oyo's example, right? How he tried to replicate. So from the beginning, he was very sure that he want to create that kind of an ambience, or that kind of an impact across the nation or even worldwide. But then that didn't stop him to try it at that level. He first tried it at the small level, so at one hotel at a time, where he personally was involved, right from providing each of the service, right from buying the material, and contributing in the revamp of the ambience. Another example that I can find here is about Facebook. Like, we all are using, we are live on Facebook right now. So we globally, everyone is using Facebook. But initially, when Mark started with the idea, it was a tool that was offered only for the campus, like the college campus where he developed that. So it was again like at a prototype stage there, when he offered that particular product which he had developed to the students, university students, for whatever, exchanging their photographs and whatever it was at that small level. But while he did that, he came across, or he came to know, so many problems that could be faced by when you are actually implementing that. And then he took care of all those, he resolved those, and then he could implement it at the global level. So that's how the prototyping and testing, we can think of it as combining as one step also. But why it is stated as a different stage is because prototyping, generally people tend to think that, generally in architecture, what you see, those scale models, that's not actually what prototyping is. Prototyping is quickly, with whatever material available, you try and make that and test it. Like for example, especially if you've heard about UI and things, so user interface. So user interface is something you require a lot of coding and to make the final product. But before you make that, if you show something, just the sketch to the user, the user won't be able to imagine how exactly it would be. Instead, what they do is, just on a small paper of that same size, they draw that wireframe, that this button would be here and this button would be here, and then they make flashcards of it. And those flashcards, then they make the users use those flashcards. So it gives the user the actual physical, they are able to interact with the physical product, though it is it though it is not, they are not pressing it, or like a the digital product that they are using, still they have something physically to see and use it. So that's how, with less time and with quick methods, you get to get that realistic feel of how the actual product may work.
Great. And the final step I think you spoke about was implementation. So that's where you
Right,
implement it, right? And
right,
then you
right,
said you reiterate it's like reiterative process wherever you
right.
need to fix, and then we go through that process.
True, 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 true.
So this
Yes.
is amazing. Now we took up an example of a startup, but does
Hmm.
it apply in even like somebody doing a job, maybe in a product, in a service?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you also initially when you started, you said it's also for you apply in life. So can we do
Yes.
that in life as well?
Yes, I think, the more you start using it in your profession, like it's my personal experience that initially I was not very aware, as when I was doing undergraduate course, architecture, that we are using this process. But when I did my masters, I was more mature and I could relate that, it's the same process. Step by step, we're using the same process for all kind of different projects. And the more I started using it in the professional projects, I realized that it became my way of thinking, and I'm using it in everything, like right from deciding my menu for the week to deciding how am I going to plan my vacation or my trip, to any simple, I want to dress for that particular occasion. Or so all these simple day-to-day activities also, that similar kind of thinking, it gets developed and you try and apply it. That's how probably it that output, which looks like a creative or something different than others, maybe is a result of the kind of thinking that goes behind it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
And there is one more question from Selveme. I know you
Hmm.
answered this already,
Hmm. Hmm.
but just to
Hmm.
confirm here,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
steps Selveme is asking, is that the steps common for all field or need separate approach for products and services?
Yeah, good question. As I mentioned that, why this is called as design thinking. Initially, only I said that because almost any kind of design. So it could be right from fashion design to product design to UI design or UX design. The main steps that you follow remains the same. But as he said, there could be few variations depending on, like for example, when I am researching, if I am doing a physical, if I am working on a physical product, suppose I am working on an aquaguard, like a water filter, it's a physical product. So in that, I need to research more about what kind of materials are being used, what kind of manufacturing process is used, how I can make it more effective. So if I want to make it lightweight, then what kind of material I can substitute from the existing material. So things like that. But then if it is, I'm working on a service, or where you are not actually dealing with any kind of physical product, but then you are dealing with environment, and in that environment also you are dealing with different kind of materials. Like for example, if it's a kind of room, then what kind of an ambience will it have if I change the colors, if I have a large openings, or if I have a different kind of textures on the walls. So that's how it contributes in it. But if it's a digital product, then maybe I am not focusing more on what kind of materials I'm using, but then I am focusing on what kind of sequence I need, or what kind of minimum steps I need to make it more effectively communicated, or to make my user give that hustle free kind of an feeling when he or she is using that particular product. So depending on the service, or a digital product, or a physical product that you're working, the details may change a little bit here and there, but the steps, they will not change, they remain the same.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. And I know we have already shot over that
Short.
1 hour time,
Right.
right?
Right.
But we have
Yes.
one last question, if we can like
Yes.
try to answer in a
Yes.
very
Yes.
short
Yes.
way, right?
Yeah.
Briefly,
Yeah.
from Vardharaj, and he says, if many
Hmm.
solutions arrive in creative thinking, then how do we decide which is the right one?
Wow, great question. Thank you so much, Varadrajanji, for that question. So, as I mentioned, the second step was to define the problem. There, exactly, we are trying to define that in the final desirable solution, what are those qualities that we want, and how are we prioritizing them? So, which are those few things which, if we can take care of that, we can create a big impact. So, when it comes to analyzing our three concepts, uh, these defined specifications, as we call it technically in product design process, they come to help. So while analyzing it, I will say that I want to make it lightweight. So is this option lightweight, is concept, so I kind of rate them out of 10. If I want to rate this particular concept for being lightweight, how much I will rate it. Like that, I do that kind of user testing for at least 15, depending on the scope or the scale of the product or the project. 20 people or 100 people or 200 people, they rate it for all those defined parameters which I have already defined. And then based on that, whatever concept is doing best, that particular concept is shortlisted. So if you want to do it for yourself, then again, according to whatever objectives or final output characteristics or properties that you want to have in your final solution, just try and evaluate all the options based on those parameters, and whichever option is doing well, satisfying most of the criterias. I'm sure that all will not satisfy all the criterias, but whichever is satisfying most of them, you just take a call based on that. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for Rupali. Like the 1 hour has been like amazing. The way you
Thank you so much.
simplified things and the way you explained, right? I think it's really awesome.
Pleasure.
It really
Pleasure.
helped a lot of people, including me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so
And
much.
before we end this particular session for the day, do you have any message that you want to give to the audience?
Yes, I would just like to tell all of them that, they all are creative, and just believe that you are creative, and then take that step forward. Try to get yourself exposed to very many different environments, talk to different people, have different perspectives. Don't think that, this is something that is not my domain. It doesn't matter, just go interact and take a lot of things. You never know which dot will get connected at what kind of solution that you are trying to find out, and that's how, keep building and be creative.
Great. And yeah, before we end, I just wanted to ask you about the book, right? Curious to
Yes.
Creative. We see it
Yes.
here on the
Yes.
screen. So, what is
Yes.
it? What is this book about? For whom are you writing this? And when can we expect this
Excellent.
book?
Yes, thank you so much for that topic. It is something that is very close to my heart. I've been working on it for past few months, and this is actually, I came across many people who think that, they, as I mentioned, that they are not creative, And then if they're not creative, they understand that, the future is something where your creative thinking and this ability is something that is going to play a dominant role in growth or in success. So how they can nurture that in their next generation or their children. So this is my small attempt to help parents how they can nurture creative thinking in their young children. And there are some very few or very simple kind of activities that they can incorporate in their day to day activities, and the way they can interact with the way the kind of exposure that they can get their children to have. All these kind of activities I have tried to incorporate in the whole book. So you will get to know about what is the creative problem solving process, and then if you want your child to be a creative problem solver, how can a parent help them. That's the whole thing the book
Right.
about.
And when can we
And
expect this book?
yes, by mid March I am trying to get it available on Amazon for everyone.
Great. So I'm sure like I'm going to go for this book for myself and also for my kids because
Mm.
the cover also looks amazing and the title
Thank you so
Curious
much.
to Creative, right? So this is mind blowing. So thank you
Yes.
again for coming on this session and enlightening us and definitely solving the problem in creative way and helping us to become creative problem solvers. So thank you for that, Rupali.
Thank you so much, Fatah. It's been pleasure sharing my thoughts and whatever experience that I have had. And it's great to interact with all the audience and to answer whatever questions they had. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, everybody,
Yeah.
for watching us live, especially the ones who have been very interactive. Vaishali, Prasad, Pallavi, Vardarajan, Ayaz, Prakash, Pravat, Ravi Shankar, Dinesh, Selvame, Suresh, Poonam, Vardarajan, Madan Pandey, right? All of
Wow.
you, Sankar,
Wow.
Sankara, right? And I think many others
Great.
who are also watching us, and also people who are
Great.
going to watch us later on the recording as well. So
Great.
thank you for being here and watching us, and thank you for also engaging in this conversation. And yes, we are going to bring more speakers with their knowledge, their experiences, so that they can help with their experiences and their knowledge to build your dream careers as well. So thank you everybody for watching us, and then stay safe, stay happy, right? Stay blessed. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Fatah. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye bye.